Well, hi there, everybody. Let's get this show rolling with some jokes. A man came home from work and he was discouraged, and his wife says, "What happened, dear?" And he said, "They gave us aptitude tests at work today and I flunked." And she said, "Oh, that's dreadful." And he said, "Yeah, it's a good thing I own the company." Why do geese fly south in the wintertime? What? Why do geese fly south in the wintertime? It's too far to walk. You know something, folks? All anybody wants in the whole world is to be loved. That's it. All you want is for somebody to love you. And little .com, all she wants is for someone to love her, and I love her. So she's all set. Now, why did the woman call her son Halley's Comet? Because he came around only once every 75 years. Two women are walking down the street, and they're looking in a men's store window, and there's a sign that says, "Sale on shirts for men with 15 to 17 necks." And she said to her, "That's too many necks for a man to have." A man called the newspaper editor and he says, "You put my name in the obituary column and I'm still alive." And the editor was truly contrite. And he tried to think of a solution. And then he says, "I know, tomorrow I'll put you in the birth column." This lady left her little 10-year-old girl just for a few minutes with two elderly ladies while the mother did an errand. And as the two elderly ladies and the little girl are sitting together in the room, one of the elderly ladies says, "She's not very P-R-E-T-T-Y, is she?" And the little girl says, "No, but very S-M-A-R-T. "Spell rose," the teacher said. "Spell rose." And the boy said, "B-R-O-S-E. And the teacher says, "There's no B in rose." And the boy says, "There was in the one I smelled." Okay. Taxi cab. The woman says to the taxi cab driver, "Cabby, can you back up 1.25 miles?" "What for?" "I don't have enough money to pay for this." And a man walked out, got out of his car, and was going down the street, and he was holding a darling Cocker Spaniel puppy in his arms. And he meets his friend, and he says to his friend, "What do you think of this Cocker Spaniel puppy I got for my wife?" And his friend says, "That's not a bad trade." Hi there, everybody. I read something inspiring in the New Testament in the book of Galatians. And it's written by Paul the Apostle. And he went around and established quite a few churches in Galatia, which is now sort of Turkey. And he went away, and while he was gone, a heresy developed. And a bad policy began to infiltrate. And so he set people straight on this. And that's what the first 4 chapters of Galatians is about. And now we're into the 5th chapter, and it's so beautiful. It says on verse 14, "For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." In other words, all of the commandments are wrapped up in this one commandment. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. You know, as I said earlier, all a person wants is somebody to love him or her. All a person wants is to be loved. Somebody to love him or her. Hey, that's pretty good, somebody to love. Not only to be loved, but to love. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if you bite and devour one another, take heed that you be not consumed one of the other. Isn't that a vision? Isn't that a beautiful statement of truth? Do you like it? Does it do anything for you? For all of the commandments are rolled up in one commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. Galatians 5, chapter 5, verse 14. Now, the fruit of the Spirit and the works of the flesh. Spirit is loving others and flesh is loving yourself. Verse 16. Then I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Walk in the Spirit. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary, the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would. Do you ever have that problem? Do you say to yourself, I do not do the things that I would do? I would do all these great things and I do not do them. How do you get there? Folks, how do you get there? But if you be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now, the works of the flesh are manifold, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like. Of the which I tell you, before, as I have also told you in the past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Folks, what is the kingdom of God? What is it? You got any idea? If we do those things that were just listed, we will not have the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, and joy, and peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they live in the Spirit, walk in the Spirit. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Walk. That means go through life with it. What a great vision. It's really clear, isn't it? Now, what book was this? Let us not be desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another. It is the book of Galatians. And what chapter was it? 5. And where do we start reading? Around 13 and 14. And what was it? What commandment rolls up all of the other commandments? Right. Love your neighbor as yourself. .com? Okay. When I finish this, here's your water.com. This is the NBC cup, and this is the Gannett cup, USA Today. You know, everybody, I've told you how I call the United States Capitol, and I ask people to call the United States Capitol. And ask for your senator, and ask for your congressman. And then whoever answers the phone, you say to that person, would you ask the senator to support legislation in favor of the animals? Yeah. And then you call your representative and ask your representative to support legislation in favor of animals. And this week and last week, government shut down a dollar number, a variety of things. A woman answers, then you ask for the senator, and then you get a recording that they're not in operation. And that's true of what Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand. But then, a few days later, I asked for my congressman, Chris Gibson, and a young man answered. They weren't going to let the government shut down. And yes, Congressman Gibson does sponsor and support legislation against cruelty to animals. Abide with me. Fast falls the evening tide. The darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, Lord, abide with me. I think we know what the kingdom of heaven is. The kingdom of heaven is happiness. Yes, we have self-preservation. Yes, we all want to preserve ourselves. But that's as it should be. It's just that there's another self over here. Another individual and you love that individual, and you preserve that individual as much as you preserve yourself. Yes, it's okay, self, as long as you remember to give the other self as much as you give yourself. That's the kingdom of heaven. The enlightenment, the joy, the peace, seeing the greatness, understanding who is running the universe. Where are we now? We're not in the past. That's over there someplace. The future's up there someplace. We are in the present. And the universe is being run perfectly. The sun, the moon, the planets, the galaxies, the rivers, the trees, the leaves, the seasons. It's all being run perfectly and has been for many, many, many years. What's that do to us? That makes us happy. That makes us give thanks. We are in the present, and we see the truth of the present. The daily operation, brilliantly, of the universe. The Chinese telephone book is not going to be published any longer. There are so many wings and so many wongs. Everybody is winging the wrong number. Why do ducks fly upside down? I don't know why. And if they do fly upside down, what happens? They quack up. The policeman stopped the young lady and he says, "Your license says here that you should be wearing glasses." And she said, "Well, I have contacts." And he says, "Well, I don't care who you know." This minister volunteered to give lectures to the prisoners. And it went on for a while. And finally the prisoners went to the warden and they said, "Warden, we object to these lectures. They were not part of our sentences." A man went to the White House, he saw a gold phone, and he was told you could talk to God on that phone. He talked to God for 3 minutes. "What do I owe you?" $300. A month later, he was transferred to Israel. He saw a gold phone. "Yes, you can talk to God on that phone." He talked to God for 3 minutes. "What do I owe you?" $3. The same thing over in the White House cost me $300. And they said, "Over here, it's a local call." Why was the baby shoe crying? His mother was a sneak, and his daddy was a loafer. What does a report card teach a parent? What does a report card teach a parent? You don't have to lift weights to raise a dumbbell. .com. We have to tell the people 8 more minutes about Galatians, the book of Galatians in the New Testament, Paul's letter to the Galatians. Here's some neat definitions, folks. Estranged, separated. Are you separated from God? That's trouble. To no longer in fellowship with. Are you estranged from anybody that you don't want to be estranged from? Certainly you don't want to be no longer in fellowship with God. 11, yeast, often used to symbolize sin. Well, really, I don't eat any leavened bread. I just eat crackers. Love, the Greek, agape, an unconditional affection, a no strings attached commitment to someone else's welfare. Wow. You know, you did a very, very good job, you people. The Good News Broadcasting Association Incorporated. You did a marvelous job on this. And I thank the Reverend Van Campen for bringing it to us. Walking, an action that implies daily living. Walking in the Spirit. I don't walk in the Spirit as much as I would like to. Can you help me? What do you do to walk in the Spirit better? Fornication. No, fornication. Sexual relationships apart from marriage. Licentiousness, lacking moral restraint, disregarding sexual standards. Heresies, false teachings, especially of a religious nature. Flesh, quote unquote, refers to our natural human condition without the Spirit of God. Ooh. It is because of the very nature of the flesh and the weakness of the flesh that the works of the flesh cannot please God. Explain that one to me, will you? A psychiatrist said to his patient, "You are suffering from cashew maraschino syndrome." And the patient says, "What does that mean?" And the psychiatrist said, "It means you're nutty as a fruitcake." So we have hope for righteousness by faith. We have faith which worketh by love. We have leaven, but by love some are. I wish you could write better, Glendora. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. For all the law is fulfilled in one commandment, even this: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Folks, I'm walking down Elm Street, okay? And walking toward me is somebody about 50 feet away. I don't see that well. I don't know if that somebody is somebody I know or somebody I don't know. But just to be on the safe side, I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" The answer was, "Not so good. I have lost the custody of my 3 children. I can't find a job, and therefore I can't have an apartment. And if I can't have an apartment, I can't have the custody of my 3 children. And my mother took custody of the 3 children, Rensselaer County Family Court. And I think she did it only for the money." Why, that's an awful thing to say about your mother. Well, my mother and I haven't got along since I was 17 years old and got pregnant. And she said, "You get an abortion or you get out of here." Well, I wouldn't get an abortion. Was this a scam? Well, I said, "Come off the sidewalk and let's get behind this truck." And I said, "I don't want this to look like a dope deal." And I reached in my pocket and I had $23. And I gave her the 20. And over at the Seventh-day Adventist Church at Bible study, I heard Dr. Celestin say There are many scams out there, but I would rather err on the side of compassion. So I gave her the $20. Folks, was I scammed? But I know that I would have been very unhappy if I didn't do it. Works of the flesh are these. And there's that long, ugly list. Oh, it's so ugly. Adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, strife, seditions. Ugly, ugly, ugly. And then there's the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, and faith. Meekness. Temperance. God bless you. God be with you. She doesn't ask for much, folks. Just a nice red sweater. And a tail.